Hey everyone, this is Ian from Headphone Zone. Now, ever since Crinacle teased the Truthear project Red a couple of months ago on his YouTube channel, a lot of you guys have been asking us to get these with us. Well, we finally have. And me personally, I've been using these for a couple of weeks. So let's really find out if it's worth all that hype. Alright, so a little bit of a backstory for some of you guys out there. Truthear being a relatively new company, they reached out to Crinacle and together they launched the Truthear ZERO, which was quite an interesting IEM because this IEM used two dynamic drivers and the whole idea of it was to assign one dynamic driver for the low end and the other one for the rest of the frequencies. And it did pretty well. So obviously it called for a second version, and this time with the Truthear Project Red, we get to see a few changes and I might say it really sounds interesting. Alright, so let's quickly have a look at what you get in the box. Now, just like most of Truthear's products, the packaging looks familiar. You have your anime waifu, of course, with that black box inside, and the accessories too for most of you should be familiar. We have this nice leather pouch over here, which can help you store your IEMs when you're not using them, and Truthear generously give you a bunch of ear tips. You have about 6 ear tips in silicone, some of them thin diameter, some of them wider diameter, depending on how you like your sound. And you also have a pair of foam ear tips, which I found quite nice. You also have 4 of these ear mesh, and these don't really change a lot when it comes to the sound quality of things, but it's rather there for a protection measure. So in case you get earwax or you accidentally damage your stock ear mesh, you have these. So that's pretty generous of them. And finally, of course, we have our IEMs, which don't look too different from the first generation, except for this nice red shiny shell design over here, which I quite like, and our secret weapon, which is a 10 ohm impedance adapter. We'll talk about this soon. All right, so here I finally have with me the Truthear Project Red. And as for fit and finish, you won't find a lot of difference from the first generation one. And I think that's good because much like the first generation one, these are quite lightweight, and the rounded design also feels quite nice to listen to for long hours. It doesn't hurt your ears, and the stock cable is a 4-strand silver-plated cable, which again, for the most part, I think is very usable, and for a stock cable is quite nice. I don't think so you really need to change these out of the box, of course, unless you need to go for a balanced cable. Coming to the all-important part about how they actually sound, and I think here things really start getting different from the first generation one. You see, in the first generation Truthear ZERO, they had a bass tuning, a little bit of an accentuated bass tuning with a weird mid-range dip, and again, that treble frequency gets a little bit of a boost. And it was an interesting tuning, of course, but I personally didn't like it all that much. I felt the mids were a little bit weird, and especially when it was quite evident when you were listening to music that had more vocal and instrument presentation, it just sounded a bit off. And I think Crinacle and Truthear understood that as well. And there was nothing wrong with the driver presentation, it was just around the overall frequency distribution. And this time around, they have fixed that, because with the same 2 drivers, what they have now achieved is a lot better sounding IEM. The earpieces itself for me are pretty interesting because although it is a little bit similar to the first generation one, I feel that the 3D printed resin design this time just speaks a little bit more volume, and that red fill inside really looks nice. Of course, these are detachable and this time around come with a 2-pin adapter, so that's always nice to have. All right, so coming to the all-important question, how do they actually sound? Well, if you just backtrack and have a look at the first generation Truthear ZERO, you'll find that the tuning was set a little close to the Harman target. And because of the dual driver setup, what they ended up achieving is a tuning that accentuates the bass a little bit and the treble. So it was closer to a V-shaped sound signature. It was very fun and exciting to listen to, but it had its drawbacks. Now, a big miss for me personally was that mid-range. It just felt a little bit hollow, and it was quite evident when you listen to more vocal-focused and instrument-centric music. It just didn't feel as right. But when it came to energetic stuff, I think the Truthear ZERO did really well. Now, of course, this news reached to Crinacle and Truthear, and with the Truthear ZERO Red, they have made the necessary tuning changes. And this time all around, it's a more balanced and well-present tuning, and they've completely ditched the Harman curve. Now, this time around, you'll find that with those same 2 dynamic drivers, they achieved a tuning that's a lot more different and interesting to listen to. First of all, now the mid-range is a little bit more uplifted and the bass is not that punchy and it's not that elevated. So it makes for a nice, more neutral and more balanced music listening experience. And even that treble part, which was a little bit shouty in the first iteration of the Truthear Zeros, I think this time around has done a lot more nice. It doesn't feel fatiguing to listen to, and that really plays well with the Zero design because, as I said earlier, it's not very fatiguing to wear for long periods of time physically, and even with that treble drop now, it's a lot nicer, plays nicely. So when you're listening to music for a long periods of time, this is going to be a very comfortable IEM to have. Now, because of the way that the Project Reds are tuned this time around, which is a little bit more balanced and neutral, a lot of you bass lovers might dismiss it very quickly. Well, hold on. Truthear now this time around give you a 10 ohm impedance adapter. And what this does is just by adding this at the end of your IEM, you can get a 3 dB boost in your bass. Now, this by no means is an IEM designed for bass heads, okay? It just gives you a 3 dB boost in the sub-bass region. Now that makes the music a little bit more exciting if you feel that it's not without the adapter. So that's a really nice trick. And for me personally, I think it does the job. I was listening to a track by Sting, it's called Desert Rose, and the track has everything you want while you're testing out IEMs like these. It has the instrument presentation, it has a lot of things going on to test imaging, vocals, and of course Sting, being a bassist himself, has laid down beautiful bass parts throughout the track. I enjoyed it by the stock tuning itself, but when I added the 10 dB boost, it really gave a little bit more kick, and while it didn't change it from a day and night difference, it did make the track a lot more engaging to listen to. Alright, so what do I think about the Truthear Project Red? Well, if you ask me personally, I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park. Both Crinacle and Truthear have done an amazing job in the tuning this time, and it's a lot more balanced and non-fatiguing to listen, and that's always a plus for me. And you have the 10 ohm impedance adapter, which gives you that little bit of a bass boost for those who need it. Small disclaimer from my end, in case you end up going with the Project Red, you might want to get yourself a DAC just to make sure you're not missing out on the finer details. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. In case you want to try out the Truthear Project Red, you're most welcome to come down to our experience studio here in Mumbai or catch us at one of our Headphone Connect events happening in a city near you. I'll catch you in the next one.